The promise to Abraham was clear. God would bless his descendants and make them into a great nation. As Abraham passed away, the mantle of this promise was handed down to his son Isaac, and from Isaac to his son Jacob. But the path to this promise would be filled with twists of betrayal, deception, dreams, and ultimately, salvation through unlikely means. Jacob and Esau, a tale of struggle. Isaac and Rebekah's household was not free of conflict. Their twin sons, Esau and Jacob, could not have been more different. Esau, the elder, was a rugged outdoorsman, a hunter, favored by his father. Jacob, quiet and cunning, stayed near the tents, cherished by his mother. From the womb, they struggled. God had told Rebekah,
"Two nations are in your womb. The older will serve the younger."
Genesis 25, verse 23. One day, after returning from the fields, a famished Esau found Jacob cooking stew. Driven by hunger, Esau rashly sold his birthright, the inheritance and spiritual blessing reserved for the firstborn, in exchange for a simple meal. Later, with his mother's scheming help, Jacob deceived Isaac, tricking his blind father into giving him the blessing meant for Esau. When Esau discovered the betrayal, rage consumed him. Jacob fled for his life, exiled from his home and family. Jacob's journey, wrestling with God. Alone and afraid, Jacob set out toward Haran. One night, while sleeping under the stars, he dreamt of a ladder stretching from earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending. At the top stood God, who spoke,
"I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying."
Genesis 28, verse 13. Jacob awoke with awe, realizing God had not abandoned him. He named the place Bethel, meaning
House of God.
Years passed. Jacob worked tirelessly under his uncle Laban, married Leah and Rachel, and fathered 12 sons, who would become the patriarchs of the 12 tribes of Israel. Yet Jacob's life was not without struggle and sorrow. One night, as he prepared to face Esau once more, Jacob wrestled with a mysterious figure until dawn. When the man saw Jacob's determination, he touched Jacob's hip, dislocating it. Yet Jacob refused to let go, demanding a blessing. The man declared,
"Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome."
Genesis 32, verse 28. Joseph, the dreamer. Among Jacob's many sons, one stood out, Joseph, the son of his beloved wife Rachel. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children, giving him a special coat of many colors, a symbol of favoritism that fueled resentment among his brothers. Joseph's youthful innocence shone brightly, but it was his dreams that stirred envy. He shared with his brothers visions of sheaves bowing down to his sheaf, of stars bowing before him. These dreams hinted at a future greatness, but to his brothers, they sounded like arrogance. Their jealousy soon turned dangerous. Betrayed and sold. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers in the fields. As they saw him approaching, anger flared.
"Here comes that dreamer,"
they sneered. Genesis 37, verse 19. A plot was formed, first to kill him, but then to profit from him instead. They seized Joseph, stripped him of his coat, and threw him into a pit. When a caravan of Ishmaelite traders passed by, they sold Joseph as a slave for 20 pieces of silver. To cover their treachery, the brothers dipped Joseph's coat in animal blood and presented it to Jacob. Believing his son dead, Jacob tore his garments in grief, mourning inconsolably. Joseph in Egypt, from slave to ruler. Dragged to Egypt, Joseph's life seemed destined for misery. Sold to Potiphar, a captain in Pharaoh's guard, Joseph worked faithfully. God's favor rested on him, and soon he was placed in charge of Potiphar's household. But temptation lurked. Potiphar's wife desired Joseph. When he rejected her advances, she falsely accused him, and Joseph was thrown into prison, betrayed once again, this time by circumstance. Even in the darkness of the dungeon, God did not abandon him. Joseph earned the trust of the prison warden and interpreted the dreams of fellow prisoners, one of whom would later stand before Pharaoh. Pharaoh's dream and Joseph's rise. One night, Pharaoh himself was troubled by dreams. Visions of 7 fat cows swallowed by 7 lean ones, 7 full heads of grain devoured by 7 thin ones. None of Egypt's wise men could interpret them. It was then that Joseph was summoned. Standing before the most powerful man in the land, Joseph humbly declared,
I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires.
Genesis 41 verse 16. Joseph revealed the meaning: 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of severe famine. He advised Pharaoh to store grain during the plentiful years to survive the hardship. Impressed by Joseph's wisdom, Pharaoh appointed him second in command over Egypt, placing him in charge of all preparations. The famine and a family reunion. As predicted, famine gripped the land, stretching beyond Egypt's borders. Back in Canaan, Jacob's household suffered. Hearing of Egypt's stored grain, Jacob sent his sons to buy food. They arrived in Joseph's presence, unaware of who he truly was. Dressed in royal garments, speaking Egyptian, Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Years of betrayal, pain, and growth swirled within Joseph's heart. Instead of immediate revenge, he tested them, accusing them of spies, demanding they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, to Egypt. Eventually, unable to contain his emotions, Joseph revealed himself.
I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But do not be distressed. It was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you.
Genesis 45 verses 4 to 5. Tears flowed freely. Forgiveness, once impossible, became reality. Joseph's dream had come true, but not as he expected. It unfolded through suffering, perseverance, and God's providence. Israel's enslavement begins. Jacob, overjoyed, reunited with his son and moved his entire household to Egypt. Pharaoh welcomed them, and the Israelites settled in the fertile land of Goshen. For years, they thrived. But as generations passed, Joseph and his story faded from Egyptian memory. A new Pharaoh arose, one who saw the growing Israelite population as a threat. Fear turned to oppression. Taskmasters enslaved the Israelites, forcing them into brutal labor. Yet even under harsh conditions, the people of Israel multiplied. They cried out, groaning under the weight of bondage. But God heard, and once again, the stage was set for deliverance. God's providence amid pain. The story of Jacob and Joseph reminds us that life's twists, betrayals, setbacks, even suffering, are never wasted in God's plan. Through Joseph's journey from favored son to slave, prisoner to ruler, God was weaving together a bigger picture. What seemed like loss was preparation. What seemed like abandonment was, in truth, positioning. Even as Israel entered bondage, God's promise to Abraham remained intact. Redemption was coming.
If you found this video enjoyable, please consider liking and sharing it. Additionally, subscribing to this channel will ensure that you receive more updates in the future. Thank you.